Welcome. I'm Bill Doherty, and I want to welcome the viewers to another edition of Bill's Bullpen. Bill's Bullpen is a program that's designed to give folks some idea of what's going on in the town, the region. And today, we're going to get a little bit broader spectrum because many of us received this book in the mail. I know I've been getting it for about 20 years. I've never read the thing, and I've often wondered, well, what is it all about? So today we have Scott Maibor, who is an independent advisor for Medicare. And as John Milton said about his poem, Paradise Lost, he's going to explain the ways of Medicare and government to us.
Oh, I'll try.
Okay. Well, first of all, Scott, I'm warming up to you because we are both alumni of Babson College, which means that you know something about business. I mean, I read the brochure. So, Scott, tell me, what is this all about? What is this book about?
So that book, and thank you for having me, Bill. That book goes out to millions of people every year. It is supposed to explain the Medicare system to you. One warning I always have with people in Massachusetts is one of the 3 states that doesn't follow the federal guidelines. That book pertains to 47 states with an addendum for Massachusetts. Massachusetts isn't fully covered, isn't really detailed in that booklet. So you'll read all about the other 47 states that doesn't apply in Massachusetts because we have a different system.
Well, thank God I never read the thing. Okay, now what is this addendum for Massachusetts?
So most states have lettered supplements. So you'll hear, friends in other states say, oh, get a Plan G, get a Plan N, get an O, and there's 10 of them. And some of them are high deductible and low deductible options within that 10. In Massachusetts, you have 3 supplements. So we have the core plan, Plan 1, and Plan 1A. That's it. You just have those 3 choices. You don't have the lettered supplements.
You just made 1 and 1A is 2 choices.
And the core.
Oh, the core.
Is the third
okay.
plan.
Oh, so that doesn't have a letter.
That's called
the
core
word.
plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Is core an acronym for something?
No, they just call it the core Medicare supplement plan.
Okay.
And that's only a Massachusetts plan.
Okay, why is that?
That I don't know. Massachusetts differed from most states in that we don't have the lettered supplements. Mm-hmm. So you have fewer choices, which in theory streamlines the process, makes it easier to understand. It also gives you no underwriting. So in Massachusetts, you don't have underwriting. So if you want to switch from an Advantage plan, let's say, to a supplement at any point, as long as there's an enrollment period, you can do that no matter your age or your health. In most states, that's not possible. So in most states, once you've passed your initial Medicare enrollment, mm-hmm. you'll be asked questions. Have you had any recent hospitalizations? Have you had any heart attacks, strokes, anything like that? And they can literally say, no, you're not allowed to switch. We don't want you as a client. Or they can raise the premium.
So it sounds like Massachusetts folks do have more flexibility at the end of the day.
They have more flexibility, but they also pay more for that privilege. And we have community pricing in the state. So somebody 65 who runs marathons is paying the same rate as somebody 85 on oxygen. Same rate for everybody.
Well, I've neither run marathons at 65 and I'm not on oxygen at 85. So I'm sort of that person that has a lot of anticipatory anxiety about what happens next. And again, tell us a little bit more about the necessity for open enrollment. Why is that?
Open enrollment, as we were talking about earlier, it condenses everything that a Medicare recipient needs to do into a 7-week period, which I would argue is crazy. But it's very important, and I can't stress enough for somebody who has Medicare to take advantage of the open enrollment opportunity, to check at the very least your drug plan. Because the drug plans, both your prescriptions change typically throughout the course of a year, but also what drug plans are covered, what drug plans are available in the state. They change constantly. There's a new drug plan carrier in the state. Some drug plans have actually left the state. And that all impacts your choices. And if you don't make a choice, the carrier and the government make a choice for you, based on the criteria they've set up. Yeah, so as we were talking about earlier, I have a client whose drug plan the plan he is on no longer exists in 2023 in Massachusetts. So he's being moved from a $15 a month drug plan to a $60 a month drug plan for the same drug, same pharmacy. No reason in the world for him to pay $60 a month for a drug plan, but the law is if the drug plan that he is on is discontinued, he needs to be moved to the most expensive drug plan that carrier offers in the county he lives in.
Okay, well, here's my situation. You know, you might as well make it personal, right? I have the VA. Okay, I have Blue Cross Blue Shield supplemental.
Okay.
And I have Medicare. Now, the Blue Cross Blue Shield supplemental is where my drug plan is. Okay, I think that I've led myself to believe, and it may not be true, that that means that I wouldn't be arbitrarily moved to anything else. Is that accurate?
So, do you have a supplement that? Excuse me if I'm getting too detailed in your personal insurance situation.
I brought you on because I don't understand this stuff.
Does your supplement include a drug plan, or do you have a separate standalone drug plan?
I believe it's a separate standalone drug plan because they give me a separate card for it.
Okay. So, and the reason I ask that is there are older supplements around, and since I believe it's been 10 years or more since you can no longer add, you can no longer have a combined supplement that includes drugs. So most people have a supplement with a standalone drug plan. They do not have to be the same carrier. And in most cases, I would argue there's no reason for it to be the same carrier unless there is a reason that it's the cheapest drug plan for you. In your case, Blue Cross only has 2 drug plans. So you're on one or the other of the 2 drug in Massachusetts. You're on one or the other of the 2 drug plans. And if it's working for you, I could still argue the point that put in your drugs, put in your zip code, and see if you couldn't save some money. My guess is that you can.
I want to find out more about supplemental drug coverage because I think that's the thing that's, that concerns a lot of people. I know that, before my wife passed, she was frail, and between the combination of the amount of drugs that that we had to, let's say to sustain her, and the treatments and so forth, were horrendous, at that time. And thank God, we did have insurance, and I know that's on a lot of people's minds. So, well, let's talk a little bit about what's available in Massachusetts for drug plans.
Okay.
Okay. I think that we'd spoken perhaps about there are 3 that, although in 47 other states, there's all kinds of letters and numbers that you use, but in Massachusetts there's 3, Core, 1, and 1A. Is that correct?
Correct. And 1A, you need to be grandfathered in.
Okay. Oh, grandfathered in.
So I advise against one. So this is regarding supplements.
Yeah.
So Medicare A and B from the government, and then you have the supplements from a private carrier to cover the pieces of Medicare, like the 20% on Part B that isn't covered. That would be the client's.
No, wait a minute. Now, this is the thing that always gets me, right? Okay. Okay. You got the A and B coverage. Okay. And if you don't take the B coverage when you first sign up, they make you pay a
late penalty.
Pay a late penalty
Correct.
on it. Okay. So let's say you've done all of that. You've got the A and B coverage, and okay, I'm all set. But I'm not all set.
You're not.
Okay. So now we're talking about those 3 other things: the Core, the 1, and the 1A.
Right.
Okay. How do you get grandfathered into the 1A?
By turning 65 prior to the year 2000.
Okay. So that would have been me.
Right. But I would still recommend against it.
Okay.
So I tell my clients not to take that.
And in my case, I have a government pension, and I was able to get a private supplement.
Right.
So to cover it, and I think a lot of folks are looking at that. Now, when you get this book, how do you differentiate between the basic coverage that are that they're talking about, and these other supplemental plans?
So I think people mistake Medicare with the A and B and the supplement, or the Medigap plan is another name for them. And the drug plan, they think it's all government.
Yeah, that's what
and it's not. And that's, I think, a big confusion. A and B is all the federal government, and you get it through Social Security, and then Medicare or CMS is...
CMS stands for what?
Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services.
Oh, geez, yeah,
So
okay.
1M, but they use it for 2 things. that's giving you the A and the B. So again, A is hospital and B is all your medical, but it's not 100% coverage, and it's not 100% free, which is a surprise to a lot of people.
Wait, what do you mean it's not free?
So Medicare Part A typically does not have a premium for most people because the premium has been paid if you've worked 40 quarters in this country through your taxes.
Wait a minute, I only have to work 38 quarters to get Social Security. I have to work another 2 quarters in order to get Medicare?
Yes,
Wait a minute.
to get Part A for free.
Okay.
Or free, quote unquote. You've prepaid Part A is what happens. But
Okay.
if you don't have the 40 quarters in, or your spouse doesn't, then you actually will pay a premium for Part A, and that's prorated depending on how many quarters you have in. But that's the free insurance that people refer to. But if you're hospitalized, the copay for 2023 is $1,600 your first night in the hospital. So the free insurance comes with copays
$1,600?
for one night in the hospital. So if you're admitted to the hospital, next year it's going to be $1,600. This year it's $1,556.
Holy moly. There's all of these, the first thing that comes to mind when you mention that is that if you are in the hospital and the hospital recommends you go to a rehabilitation facility, unless you spend 3 midnights in the hospital, you now are responsible for the rehabilitation costs. And when I was in public office and I heard this, I went through the roof.
Yep.
I said, because I had done advocacy work for the mentally ill, and they had extreme problems in finding beds, and while you're in the emergency room, that does not count as an admission.
Even if you're upstairs in a bed, but they haven't admitted you because you're here for observation.
Okay, now.
And if you don't have an advocate to watch it, to help you with that, you're either, you could be very ill and really not be sure, you were in the hospital for 3 days. Do only 2 of them count? Somebody has to be paying attention because, as you said, when you go to rehab, now you're paying for rehab.
Okay, well, you see, this is part of now. Believe it or not, our mental facilities deteriorate as we get older, and I have this vision of these little old ladies and little old men that that are hearing these things and saying, "What the hell am I going to do about this?"
It's a problem.
So you're an independent advisor. What the hell do you do about them?
You really need somebody, whether it's a spouse, an adult child, to be an advocate and to pay attention, because it's very easy to get tripped up when you're in overnight for observation and then spend 2 nights as an admitted patient. You need to say, no, I can't leave the hospital yet. I need another day because I need to get that rehab covered. Because, it's free. Rehab could be free for the first 20 days if you've met that requirement. Otherwise, it's all out of pocket.
Now, I know that this isn't directly connected to the Medicare, but it is, it is a continuing problem. And I had a personal experience where where a doctor was discharging someone because the insurance coverage had, and I had said, well, I understand that you're saying that the kid's been cured. I said, but would you put that in writing? And so I got the extra couple of days, out of it, because of that. Now, as an advocate, but getting back to the Medicare, who on a regular basis, who can you go to sort of guide you through this in a way that you're putting things in what I would call simple, plain, monosyllabic English?
Well, in theory, that's what the book's for.
Right.
There are the volunteers, the SHINE counselors, and SHIP counselors in other states.
What is the SHIP? That's not in Massachusetts, right?
SHIP is in other states.
Okay, hell with
Again,
that. Well,
when we
back
call
to
them,
SHINE.
we use a
Okay.
different name. We use SHINE.
Yeah.
SHIP is, I don't know why there's a differential. Yeah. So there are the SHINE counselors, but of course this time of year it's hard to get an appointment.
That's right, because I remember a couple of years ago I tried to get an appointment and I was told I wouldn't get an appointment until after my taxes were due.
Right, and unfortunately, if you have a December 7th deadline and you cannot get an appointment with somebody to help you until December 8th, it's too late to make a change, and you may not know the impact of that change until in January you go to the pharmacy and realize, oh, XYZ prescription isn't covered any longer. Mm-hmm. There's people like me.
Okay, now what do you do?
So I am an independent advisor, and there are 2 models there. You can go to a broker, who's going to be commissioned based, and there are pros and cons, obviously, with each model, or you can go to somebody who's
Okay,
fee-based.
well, a broker basically is a, for automobile insurance, for example, a broker will tell you, well, I'll get you the best deal from somebody.
Right.
But actually, once you sign up with a broker and he's got your name on the list, you go back to the same thing, over and over again.
Absolutely. The problem with the broker model is there are currently four, I believe, off the top of my head, 4 carriers that do not work with brokers. So the question is, if company X is the best option for you, but they don't pay a commission, they don't work with brokers, is that person going to do all the work and still recommend that plan for you or that carrier? Or are they going to say, well, let's go to option 2, which will cost you a little bit more, but at least I earned some money. The alternative, though, is a fee for service, which you have more of a fiduciary relationship. The broker or the advisor is no longer commissioned based, so whatever plan is best for you, they can freely recommend. But there's a fee involved. And
No. So how do you make your living?
I'm kind of a hybrid. I would love to be more fee-based, to be perfectly honest, because I think a lot of my clients do not like the idea of a commission-based model. The problem is, and what I wrestle with are people who can't afford a fee. So, I end up working with clients who couldn't afford a fee, but, they still need help. And if you can't get an appointment at a volunteer and you can't pay a fee, you still need help. So that leaves a big chunk of the population stuck. So, I don't want to walk away from those. I have a colleague who, and I know what she charges for her Medicare advice, and that would eliminate huge numbers of people. And, when I asked her how does she handle it, she said, I honestly just turn people away. And in her model, you have to put a credit card in to get the advice. And I just, something about that rubs me the wrong way.
Well, there's an inverse relationship between the amount of income and revenue that an individual has and their ability to get the kind of help that they need.
Which is unfortunate.
Yeah, I've seen several different types of population that are affected by that. Many people that are homeless. Matter of fact, I was talking to a kid the other day that when he first got out of the service was really screwed up, and in order to get help, he couldn't get anybody to talk to him.
Yeah.
Until he straightened. He said it was very difficult for me to straighten out on my own. He said it took a couple of years, and where they talk about all these programs that are there to help you, they don't kick in until you are, until you reach a certain threshold of what is acceptable to them.
Right. And with any of the, Medicaid, because a lot of seniors are on both Medicare and Medicaid, but it's this huge opaque window that you're looking in and trying to navigate on your own. It's very confusing. It's very difficult. So now you have 2 programs that work in conjunction with each other if somebody qualifies. But, a lot of people think Medicaid or Mass Health in the state is black, it's either yes or no. There are multiple federal and state programs for people who may not meet the Mass Health standard requirement, which is the top tier or lowest tier.
Mass Health is, it's one of the things I've always admired about Massachusetts for kids, is that no kid in Massachusetts will be prevented from getting care in Massachusetts.
It's a fabulous program, and I talk to a lot of seniors who will tell me they don't qualify for Mass Health, and I'm like, well, have you tried the low-income subsidy? Have you tried the Quimby and Slimbees and all the other lower income? So, there's tiers, and there's also something in Massachusetts called Prescription Advantage, which is a phenomenal program.
Talk a little bit about that.
So it's a state-run program with federal money. It's a separate organization. It is not Medicaid. It's not Mass Health. But it's designed for people who don't qualify for any of the other programs to get help with their drug costs. And they're quote-unquote middle income. So you don't qualify for the low-income pieces. But I spoke to somebody yesterday on Eliquis. It's very expensive. They're not.
What do you call it?
Eliquis.
What is that?
I believe it's what is it for? I believe it's a blood pressure.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's a blood pressure
medication.
medication, yeah.
And the alternative, and there's a cheaper alternative, but it requires that you get blood work done once a month or once a quarter because it does damage to your liver or something. So Eliquis is the preferred but you can't get it through a good RX. You can't get it through Mark Cuban's company. The only way to get it is you pay a lot of money for it. So, but I suggested to he and his wife yesterday, sign up for Prescription Advantage. I mean, the most they can say is no. But if you do get approved for Prescription Advantage, and I believe the top tier on income is $91,000 for a couple. So it's a decent income. And what Prescription Advantage does, and there's multiple tiers, it will put a cap on your drug cost. So it does two things for you. It puts a cap on your drug cost, and most of their tiers are free. So I believe just their top tier has an annual fee, and it gives you another enrollment period. So should you need to change your drug plan, you have a get out of jail free card, just because you've been approved by Prescription Advantage to go and change plans in the middle of June or July. But in their case, so the Eliquis will push him into the coverage gap. I believe it was in like June, July timeframe. If he has Prescription Advantage, even if he is on the top tier and has to pay a few $100s for it, he will never go into the coverage gap, which when he does, the Eliquis spikes up to a few $100s a month.
Wow. Now, we're in the richest country in the world, and we haven't. Well, of course, when I lived in Europe, years ago, I recognized that you paid a higher percentage of your income in federal and also provincial and state tax, and you did get a higher level of coverage, but you did pay for it.
Yes.
And and when these plans are presented, that the government is taking care of things, those folks will tell you that that subsidized care means you have to wait for your turn. And I believe you'd brought up an example of knowing of a French Canadian that basically has a supplemental plan, and perhaps even comes down here to get things done, when the time comes. But there's still a great level of confusion and overlap and all the rest of it. What's a person to do?
You really either have to find a guide or invest the time, ignore all the advertisement, because Joe Namath on TV does not have your best interest. He's actually not even representing a company. He's representing a call center that then sells your information to a broker. They don't care who your doctor is. They don't care who your medication is. It's great that they're giving you free rides. And all the advertisement...
There's no such thing as a free ride.
No, there absolutely isn't.
I mean, that's the one thing they beat us up at Babson about all the time.
And when you see somebody telling you that there are, you can have free rides to the doctor and or the give back plans that give you $60 or $70 a month back for signing up for an Advantage plan, they're making it up elsewhere. Be sure of that. So be very cautious about what you see in advertising and glossy brochures. I asked somebody how they signed up for the particular supplement they're on, and she literally told me that the company that she had signed up with, which was $50 more a month than any other carrier in the state, same exact coverage, had the prettiest brochure.
Well, advertising is very important, because I remember that, market-driven promotion usually creates demand, and in creating demand, that's how people make money.
But don't let them make money on you.
Okay, now, believe it or not, we're almost coming to the end of this, of this piece of it, and you've given us, Scott, you've given us a lot of information. What would be the next step for people?
I think, again, I can't stress enough, December 7th is your deadline. So even if you do this yourself and go to Medicare.gov, put in your zip code, put in your medications, and just compare your current drug coverage to what they're recommending as a drug coverage. If you have an Advantage plan, the drugs are embedded in the Advantage plan, so you have to do the same thing. A lot of Advantage plan people say, I don't have a drug plan. You do, because the drug plan is part of the Advantage plan. But you have to be extra careful, because now if you were going to switch Advantage plans, your doctors have to be in the new Advantage plan.
Well, that's another thing that people have a lot of confusion about.
We need another hour.
Is like, is your doctor a network or not?
Right.
So, and that adds to the confusion at an age when some of us, I'll say, are losing the sharpness, the edge that we have.
Oh, you're pretty sharp. With a supplement, there's no network. So any doctor that takes Medicare in the country will take your supplement no matter who the carrier is.
Okay.
So whether you have 1A, or the core, any doctor takes it, so forget the networks, no need to worry about it, and all of your Part B in any of those cases are completely covered. So just focus on the drug plan. If you're an Advantage plan customer, and I don't dislike Advantage plans, I'm a fan of them, I think there's a place for them, depending upon your health, depending upon your cash flow and budget situation, but you have to be aware of what you're getting. If you're going with an Advantage plan, you're in either an HMO or a PPO model. You're saving $2,000 or $3,000 a year in fixed cost, which is significant, and in many cases cheaper medications. However, you do have to be very careful. You have to understand what you're getting. You have to be an informed consumer.
Now, as we come to the end of this, what is the main takeaway you want to give folks?
Check your drug plans, get help, and 2023 is coming, and the plans are different. Supplements, don't worry about, but your drug plan or your Advantage plan, check it.
Okay, and I think there was one other thing that you'd said earlier, which is take a look at what your present carrier sends you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Oh, yeah. If you got a letter from your current carrier, make sure you pay attention to it, because it's not advertising. It's the explanation of benefits. It's what could be changed that you won't know about starting January 1st.
Sounds like if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, Scott, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you so much for having me.
And spending the time with us. And I want to thank the viewers for spending the time with us to find out a little bit more about something that, to those of us of a certain age, can be very confusing. You've been watching Bill's Bullpen, a production of Born TV.